Hello everyone, my name is Robert Small. I'm the Executive Director of the CUNY Film Festival presented by Macaulay Honors College. I would like to welcome you to CUNY TV Presents, an initiative focusing on emerging filmmakers and their exceptional cinematic work. Today's conversation focuses on the CUNY Film Festival, which is now in its 16th year. You're about to watch a collection of extraordinary, hand-picked films from past years of the festival. Some produced as far back as 2014 and some as new as 2022. So let me introduce you to our panel of filmmakers, all participants of past CUNY Film Festivals. Or Szyflingier.
Hi.
Josh Kapusinski.
Hi.
And Alexandra Boothe. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so great to be with all you filmmakers.
Well.
Your films are so wonderful. Let's talk about them. Or your film, The Soho Memory Project. The Soho Memory Project is a film with interviews, photos, and archival material provided by neighborhood residents. Or Szyflingier captures Soho resident Yuki Oda's dedication to the archiving of Soho's past and her creation of the Soho Memory Project. Once a New York warehouse district turned artist hub, we reflect on the neighborhood's relationship with gentrification and change. So, Or, how did you come to learn about the Soho Memory Project and Yuki Oda's mission?
Yes, thank you. So a couple of years before we were working on the Soho Memory Project documentary, I met Yuki when I was working at Symphony Space on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And then a couple of months later, again, I was a student at the time in the Comedy department at City Tech. A couple of students and I, along with our lovely professor, Professor Josh Kapusinski, we decided to come together and create a film for the CUNY Film Festival. A topic that we decided to focus on was gentrification. Since we all live in New York, we all experience it, we all heard about that. And when we heard gentrification, the first thing that came to my mind was Soho, because the neighborhood really set a precedent for gentrification in New York and in the world, actually. So a couple of months later, I reconnected with Yuki to hear her story when she was in grad school and starting the Soho Memory Project. Again, at the time, nobody was documenting the neighborhood. There was no archive, and Yuki herself was learning how to be an archivist, and she used that for her thesis project. She started by herself, writing the blog, collecting the materials, connecting with the neighborhood, with the residents of the neighborhood, and starting to build the whole archive and helping to educate people by starting her mobile museum. So that's how I came along Yuki and her incredible story.
Wow, that's a lot of work. Absolutely. What was the mobile museum?
It's a lot of pieces that Yuki collects, and it's part, obviously, of the archives, but it's a mobile museum, so she's able to actually go to different places with the cart that she actually built and help educate people about Soho and the history of Soho.
You know, I spent a lot of time in Soho during the period your film focuses on, and it's quite fascinating to me because it was like the Wild West. I mean, there were a lot of buildings that were unoccupied, and it attracted a lot of artists. I found it interesting that in your film you talk about how, or Yuki talks about how the adversity of Soho, you know, being a warehouse district and what have you, attracted artists, which was, I thought, an interesting thing to focus on. Could you talk a little bit about her perspective on that?
Yes, so the Soho that we know today is definitely not the Soho from the 70s. It was a very grungy, scrappy neighborhood. There was no street lights, no cars, no businesses around. There were some warehouses and factories and some garment designers later on. But a lot of the kids that grew up there didn't really have much to do. So a lot of times they were forced almost to become creative and entertain themselves. So you could see, for example, Yuki at a young age, she used to take the designer tube, you know, the garment tube, and do some sword fighting with her sister, or like pretend it's a telescope and try to see, you know, what she can see. Again, there was like high ceilings in the apartment, so they were able to build swings in there and ride their bikes. And it was a very free time, creative time. And you could see that a lot of the people that grew up in Soho back then are creatives today, same like you, Robert.
You know, first the artists were there, or the low rent payers were there, and then people, you know, thought it was cool, so they would move in, and the businesses would open to cater to the new residents, which displaced old businesses, and so on and so on. But I think that it happened in Soho, you know, maybe first, and it happened over a long period of time, but afterwards, because it set an example, it happened faster and faster, and now neighborhoods are changing, you know, by the day. You almost can't keep up with it anymore.
Let's move on to our next film, Everybody's Different. Is a documentary about Brooklyn High School honors student Johanlini Almonte. The film reminds us that the differences we're born with do not dictate our destinies, and more importantly, the film's successful in reframing how we view physical disabilities. So, Josh Kapusinski, thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
So Josh, this young lady, Johanlini, had many obstacles put in front of her and managed to come out not only successful in life, but compassionate towards others. Let's just go back, and how did you first meet Johanlini?
At the time, I was working at an ad agency in Manhattan. I was working on commercials and doing lots of cool stuff, billboards in Times Square. And you know, at the end of each week, I would come home and I'd be pretty tired, working 40, 50 hours a week. And but you know, something was missing, and you know, I felt like the work that I was doing wasn't fulfilling. And so I wanted to do something else on the side. And it was around the winter time, and so I had reached out to a lot of my friends just via email. And I typed up the email and I said, I want to do a project over the winter, maybe a documentary. Do you know anybody who's interested, any of your friends or relatives? Luckily, get one response back, and it said, you know, I know someone at a school in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and one of their students is pretty interesting. So I emailed the teacher and I said, you know, I would like to do this, thinking about knowing more about one of your students, and I like to do these type of projects just out of my pure passion for telling stories. I think just having the ability to inspire people and motivate people is such a powerful thing that you can do with film and movie making and things like that, and documentaries are very close to my heart.
You know what her disability was at that point?
I did. I knew a little bit about it. So the goal of that visit to meet her there are a few things. I was unsure of whether this project was even going to take flight because of her disability can impact, and what I've learned through the film is that it can affect different parts of your body, and sometimes speech is one of those. And so, you know, me interviewing her and answering the questions, it could impact how the project goes, you know, if it's gonna be able to if I'm gonna be able to do it. And so
you don't know that until you do it.
You're right. So it's kind of a pre-interview, as you say. And so we talked about a lot of things, and I came away and I thought, wow, this is amazing. She's so articulate. She's so mature.
My name is Johanlini Almonte, and I'm an honors student at Juan Morel Campos School in Brooklyn, New York. Once you believe in yourself, you start having confidence in the kind of things you can do, then there's no one who can tell you that you can't do things. And sometimes you just have to accept that you're not gonna do the same things, or you're not gonna do them the same way as others. Everybody has their different way to do things, so everybody's different.
Well, let's move on to our next film, Mixed Feelings, Growing Up Biracial in America. This is a participatory documentary that tells its story through the voice of director Alexandra Boothe. The film explores her unique issues, identity, racism, and prejudice within the context of her own upbringing in a mixed-race family. In the film, the camera confronts members of a family in a quest to uncover generational history of racism and how it affects even the youngest member of the family today. How did your family react to seeing this film once it was completed?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I submitted this as a project for my master's program at CUNY. So when I initially had done it, I think there was a lot of support in how I was going about a school project. I think family was a little less clear about what this would mean for them in the long term, about sitting down and actually having some difficult, hard conversations. Growing up in the 90s, there was this idea of post-racialism floating around. And so I think my family in some ways felt that they were a part of that, and so that this would be an easier conversation to have than it was. So everybody came to it with their own prejudice, bias, insecurity, and I think we are better for having the conversation. I don't think it's over, though.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
The film is very interesting.
Thank you.
It goes to a lot of places. There's a lot of N-word use. There's a lot of disagreements, I would say.
Yeah.
But there was one thing that stood out for me. You talk about the Barbie conflict or the Barbie situation.
Yes.
And it's a real trendy kind of
It
word
is.
right now. Could you tell us a little bit about what the Barbie conflict was within the context of your film?
Sure, yes. So, infamous story in our family at this point, but I have a younger cousin, Taylor, who was very into Barbies when she was about 8 or 9. I'm a few years older than her, so I was in the double digits at that point, and Barbies weren't so fun for me. But when they would come to visit, I would usually get roped into playing with her, appeasing her, making sure she got to have her Barbie time, which wasn't that big of a deal for me, except for when I went to go and play with said Barbies, she would usually bring a really big bucket of Barbies over from Mississippi to visit.
A bucket?
A bucket. So I would have my lot to choose from. And that particular time that they were visiting, I had chosen the black Barbie. And my cousin was very quick to tell me that I could not be that Barbie because that Barbie was to be the maid. And so I had to pick another, presumably white Barbie, for us to be able to play the game she wanted to play. At that age, that still really hit me. It impacted me. I didn't feel comfortable with that. I felt very offended.
Yeah.
So I also didn't really want to play the Barbie, so it gave me another reason to say enough is enough here. So I drew that line, and I went and I talked to my parents about it, and it escalated very quickly from a child incident playing out to adults then trying to handle a child's conflict, but with very serious and deep issues that my family really hadn't discussed in any sort of significant way. And we didn't use that opportunity to speak about it in a significant way. My aunt took the kids, left that night, didn't really want to deal with what that conversation meant, especially in our mixed race household. And so we never discussed it.
That's fascinating. It's kind of a metaphor for the whole thing, isn't it?
Isn't it?
You know, you open the film talking to your father on the phone.
Yes.
And you close the film talking to your mother. But your body language didn't seem like it got an answer that you wanted.
Absolutely.
Is
yes.
that how you left it with your family?
I would say today in 2023, we're closer to an answer. I don't think we're at an answer, but absolutely that was the feeling I wanted to leave the audience with when I closed the film, of my frustration, knowing how far we still had to go in dialogue, in finding language, in really taking time. I think my family does what a lot of American families tend to do, of couching things in humor, of making it lighter because of what could happen if you start to really sit down with things. And so using those two shots to juxtaposition, kind of my start and close, really was to say there's still more to be said.
Very interesting. A very interesting observation on your part. So thank you for that film. You know, I often wonder, I watch a lot of old TV and old movies and things like that, and I often wonder how young people in the 50s and 60s and 70s watching these things, people of color, there were no representations whatsoever. So, like, how do you, how do you navigate that? I've never had an answer to that, but your film sort of opens up some questions about that, and I thank you for it.
This is my Uncle John. He stayed with us for a few months while he moved to Texas for work. Moments like this, perhaps now in context, should not have been okay. We were celebrating my brother Adam's 9th birthday, but Uncle John wasn't willing to partake. As kids, we shouldn't have had to wonder why my uncle didn't want to participate in our family celebrations. I began this documentary as an exploration into my family and identity, and to determine if love is enough, if it should be enough.
You know, Josh, I remember seeing Imported from Brooklyn, a film of yours that focuses on a student who came to America and forged a very successful career. Could you tell us a little bit about Imported from Brooklyn?
Sure, sure. Imported from Brooklyn is a documentary that I worked on with a colleague of mine, Douglas Davis, who teaches in our department at ComD at City Tech. And what we set out to do was to tell a success story, and we have many of them. Yet not a lot of people know about them. And so Tony DeSpina is one of our graduates who graduated from our school, which was called New York City Community College, and it's now New York City College of Technology, in the 60s. And he came to the United States as an immigrant from Italy and didn't have the means to immediately excel in what he wanted to do. He had to work during the day, long hours, take night classes, couldn't afford to go to the private art school that he wanted to go to. So it's really his origin story of how he became successful and through college years and things like that. And you know, the special quality about the film is that it's very relevant, although it's told in the 1960s. So Tony is a world-renowned graphic designer, typographics master, letters and fonts and things like that. And his ability to draw letters with his hands and the curves and everything is just out of this world.
I was working behind a cold cut counter and I was bored doing that. It was at a small grocery store. It was so boring that at one point I said, I gotta change. I gotta do something. I can't continue to do this for the rest of my life. So I decided to go to the next best thing, and that was commercial art.
My best word to describe Tony's work is timeless.
He became the master of it.
It's timeless. I can't tell when he did it.
His steady hand, I mean, it really was almost otherworldly that someone just with their own hand could create, such perfect lines and balance.
How about you, Alexandra? Are you working on anything now, or?
Yes, so I'm currently working on a few projects down in Washington, D.C. I'm focused on the community of Ward 8. I moved there about 5 years ago and have been really focused on telling stories of displacement, social justice, and economic development as it moves very quickly east of the river, and how to give voice to community members trying to stay in the community that they've grown up in.
Great. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And I guess, Or, are you have any projects in development, or?
Yes, so I'm currently working with City Tech in Brooklyn right now. We have an ongoing project creating a video library, which started during the pandemic when a lot of professors, students, and faculty could not really access resources. So we decided to divert some of the information from heavy text, 50 PDFs, into, very engaging short videos that could be on multiple platforms. And it's also an opportunity to collaborate with our community. So we're collaborating with professors, students, faculty, and even grads.
How do you feel CUNY as an institution added to your inspirations and careers? Let's start with you, Or.
I started as an undergrad in the comedy department at City Tech. I continue my education with CUNY as a grad student right now at the BIC program at City College. And I'm also working with the Research Foundation of CUNY. So CUNY has really been a huge part of my life, and it really helped me to start my career and understand the person that I want to be. I came with an understanding that I want to be a designer. You know, what does that mean? But over the time, I was able to grow and understand that I'm a problem solver, I'm an advocator, I'm a collaborator, I'm a storyteller. And I think that's what I need to thank CUNY and really taking part of my journey being in CUNY.
Is there more?
Yes, so the more that we're doing the videos and the more that we're working with professors and students, we're seeing the impact of videos and the way that we're able to give information and again engage with the community. And it's really, it's an emergency right now. We live in an era where we're online and digital a lot of times, and we're really seeing the lack of filmmakers. And I hope that more people right now watching us would be able to really get into the industry and become filmmakers and help make a difference.
Well, let's hope so. That's great. Josh, you...
Sure, yeah. So I teach at CUNY. I'm a professor, and it's a bit different answer, I suppose, but it's very fulfilling, and it's really amazing to be able to influence the trajectory of a student's life. We recently won an advertising competition nationally, which was amazing, and our students actually filmed their reactions in which they jumped up and down in synchronization, which was also amazing. And just to see the joy on their faces, and it was pure adrenaline, and they just went bananas. They went absolutely crazy, and they didn't know they were going to win. They just happened to just film it, and we worked really hard. I mentored them on the project, and it's just so genuine to see that, and they'll remember that for the rest of their lives, and it's really a game changer, and CUNY is a big part of that.
Thank you. So did CUNY influence you at all, Alexandra?
Absolutely, yeah. I was really grateful for the confidence that CUNY gave me. Being in downtown New York, the diversity of CUNY, the story that it tells about being able to come from anywhere, any background, and really make something of yourself. I so appreciated that in how I was able to gain the technical skills to become a storyteller. So I think those things all came together in a really powerful way.
That's great. Well, thank you all for being here. I mean, I just love your work, and I know a lot of people do. That's why you're award winners, and thank you for your time. Well, that's all the time we have for today. And thanks to our guest. It was wonderful having you here. I wish you the best of luck in your careers going forward, and I hope everyone at home enjoyed today's conversation. Please spread the word about the exceptional CUNY Film Festival at Macaulay Honors College. Follow us on social media, and remember, support emerging filmmakers everywhere. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thank you for watching.